back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Ange Matthews. She's an investment expert and creator of the Happy Investor Method. And Angie and I are going to be talking today on the topic, how women can prepare financially for anything from recession to divorce. And right off the top, I want to apologize to you listeners for my raspy voice. I'm just coming back from a bout of COVID. I'm in my 6th day, so I don't even know if I'm fully recovered, but I'm working. So forgive my raspy voice, and maybe if I, forget a word or something, put it down to the fact that I'm not 100%. So welcome, Angie.
Thanks so much for having me, especially in your current condition.
You're very welcome. It's a good thing it's, not in person, right? Else I wouldn't be able to do it. Don't want to be, infecting anybody else. All right. Well, listen, we're going to have a good conversation today. This is a very important topic. I couldn't wait to get Angie on the show because us women, including me, need to learn about investment. So first of all, before we dive in, let me give you a brief introduction. Angie is an entrepreneur with a passion for helping people to create an abundant lifestyle, not just wealth, but to increase their impact. She is regularly tapped by SiriusXM, Yahoo Finance, Cheddar, and the New York Times, and more, and is on a mission to help women entrepreneurs and the minority communities experience powerful wealth. What a great mission. She knows it's possible for anyone because she did it herself when she started investing on a $40,000 annual salary with 6 figures in debt. Since then, she's generated multiple 6-figure incomes. And she's young, y'all. So it's a great accomplishment, achievement. I love that she's a woman of color and that she is rocking it. So I want to start off by diving right in. Is there a secret you can share with the audience that can get them started with investing?
The secret is, and I think it's not much of a secret, but something that folks really need to take action on, and that is you need to start today, or at least put a date in the calendar and make it so that you start it. It's just as important as treating it like a fancy date that you have coming up in a week. I want you to treat it as if it's the most important thing that you have on your to-do list, and you will not push it off. And whether that's taking a step towards reading a book, whether that's taking a step to actually creating a budget so you can add more money to your retirement, maybe that's setting up an account. It doesn't matter. Set a date to do something, because for a lot of us, we have it as a New Year's resolution. And before you know it, the year goes by, years go by, and you're going to be sitting there, in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, wondering, why didn't you take action? And just simply saying, because I was busy, is not going to be acceptable for older you.
That's a good one. What about, I was scared, a lot of women are scared about investing in the stock market because yes, it is a risk. You can lose what you don't have. So can you share a challenging time or situation that could have ruined you, but you came out with a huge learning experience?
When I first started investing, it was when most people were leaving the investment game. And that was back during the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, 2010. And at that time, I thought that I was making a very limited salary of $40K a year. And I was living in New York City. So that might as well have been $20,000 a year because New York is so expensive.
Right.
And at first I started investing with just $100. And that's really kind of my claim to fame. A lot of people know me as saying, you can invest $100 a year and your life can change. And I know for a lot of people, they think that's ridiculous, but I'm a factor of that. But when I first started, I didn't know this lesson, and I invested, and all of a sudden the value of my investment started going down. So here I was investing $100 every week. Sometimes I'd put 200, whatever I could, because my money was growing and I was working a job and it was growing passively. And then one day I looked at my account and there was red. And red, not good red, like your beautiful red lipstick red. I mean, this red was like, wait, does this mean that I'm losing money?
Yeah,
What is happening here?
yes.
And instead of harshly reacting, I just started Googling, right? I started reading more books, Googling. And when I looked at all the other people who were more successful, side note, older white men who were really successful at investing, typically speaking, they were the ones who said that it was in this downturn when their portfolio was red, which is portfolio, a collection of assets that you have, that they doubled down, and this is what propelled their wealth. So in thinking that, well, this is all or nothing, I really put everything in here. At the time, I didn't have much savings because it wasn't getting any interest, and I invested, and I thought, you know what, if I changed my mindset, and I think to myself that this is a sale, like a Macy's one-day sale or Victoria's Secret semi-annual sale, and I thought of it as a discount sale, well, then
Right, girls,
this is
you're calling
actually
out
really
names
great.
here.
Yeah. Then I'm thinking, well, this is actually really great. This is amazing. I'm getting things on sale that I couldn't even afford before. I'm getting more of it. And I started investing more. And I think that was a really crucial moment, because in that moment, I could have liquidated, which is what most people did during that time. And that's how you hear those stories of people who lost thousands of dollars in the stock market, or their retirement went down and they lost. But that's because they took action without information and knowledge. And because I took the heed of other successful people, I doubled down, and I was able to accelerate my wealth much faster than other people who just sat out or liquidated. And so that's my biggest lesson. And I always think about that lesson when the stock market does go up or down, because it does. But over time, it always goes up. And if you think that you're going to be the special one that always loses, well, you're really at a disadvantage, because most people win.
Yes, that's such a great story. And I've got so many circle backs on that. And I'm putting my personal experience. One, the money that I had in the money that I had in, okay, yeah, I have so many circle backs on that, using my personal experience. One, when the downturn happened, I had money in mutual funds and I saw it going, it never went to negative, but I took it out before it went to negative, because I'm thinking, I don't have that much money to lose. So I'm taking it out. Now, I'm also a realtor. And I know that all the investors are saying exactly what you're saying. When everybody, is getting out, you need to be cash rich in order to buy those houses. And I will tell you, I live in Florida, Lee County of all places, which was the foreclosure capital. And people were picking up houses for $30,000 that are worth 300,000. So I know what you're saying, but you have to have incredible, I don't know, strength to look at your dwindling numbers and say, you know what, it always goes back up. And it's true. If you look at, Warren Buffett, or I don't know, I don't want to call Donald Trump, but is what I'm thinking of right now. But yes, the rich white men, they're going to tell you that a downturn is the best time to invest, because the stocks that you're talking about now, are like in a clearance sale. I love that. Maybe they used to be $20 a share or $200 a share, and now they're like 50 cents or something. Right. But I'm going to have a follow up, because again, nothing is foolproof. So let's say, I just thought of it, you were having a clearance sale, right? You can buy a stock that was $150 a share, and now it's 50 cents.
That's
What do
not
you tell
probable.
yourself?
I'm going to tell folks right now that is not very typical. It might be 150, and the way it ended up being, it was maybe like 75 at the lowest,
Okay, all right.
right?
It never goes down to 50 cents. I'm pretty sure
If
I've
it
seen some of
does,
the stocks tank. I don't remember the company, but I remember it's Office Depot, for instance. I used to have stocks in Office Depot because I used to work at Office Depot. And that stock went down to 50 cents at some point in time. And it wasn't $150. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was $50 or something. But anyway, yes, you respond to that.
So one of the things, it does take a lot of courage to stay put when everyone's running. I will say that. And your natural tendency and everything in your body is going to want to leave because it is uncomfortable.
Yes.
And this is when analysis comes into play. This is when you have to get more data input into you to calm your nervous system into realizing that other people don't know what you know. And sometimes it's almost like faith, right? In the sense of a lot of people, and I know it's really interesting. I grew up in a household with a lot of faith, and I didn't have a lot of money growing up, but I had a lot of love. And Lord knows I had a lot of faith being poured into me, right? And
Yeah.
so it's
God will
one of
make a
those things where
way.
it's a test.
Yes.
It's a test. It's a test of faith. It's a test of, no, this is kind of my birthright. I know I'm supposed to be abundant. And I also know that I did the research and due diligence to back this up. And so a lot of people have one of the two. Either they have the, I know that this is my birthright, I am abundant, and I will always have. And some other people also have, no, I know my numbers, but they also don't listen to their intuition. The best investors understand both. They leverage both sides. So when the stock market goes down or things look like a company that I'm investing is not doing well, naturally there is that tendency to do what you did, to say, I'm not losing any more money. We're out. In that moment, what I do is I simply press pause. So if I'm continuously investing in the investment, which is something that I teach at the Happy Investor Method, because you don't want just like a one-time win. That's when someone says like, oh, wow, this company doubled, but they only put $500 and it went to 1,000 versus if they had put 5,000, it would have gone to 10. So we habitually invest. But what I do is I press pause and then I just sit and I take a moment and I acknowledge the feelings that I'm having. I acknowledge what these feelings might mean to me. And so an example is when your money is going down or when you make a quote unquote bad investment or financial decision, all of these voices come. These voices like, see, I knew this wouldn't work. It never works for anyone. Why would it work for me? See, my parents didn't have a lot of money. Why would I have money? See, I didn't have a degree in accounting or any of these financial backgrounds. So who was I to think this? All of these thoughts just jump in. And what I do is I take a moment and I just listen. I just listen to the thoughts, I feel the feelings, and then I let my rational mind come and say, actually, friend, that is not entirely correct. You have managed and accumulated lots of money in your lifetime. And if you think about really how much each of us have made, we've made quite a bit of money in our lifetime. And we've also made really good money decisions. And so then I think the person who made really great money decisions needs to come up to the driver's seat and we need to make another good money decision. Ange, come on down. It's you. And then we think about it. We go back to the books. I always put why I invest in an investment and my expected return before I invest in it. So I revisit that document and then I'm like, oh, this is okay. This is a sale moment. This isn't a horrible moment. I'm looking at the numbers of the company. The company has cash on hand. This is because of a war happening on the other side of the world that has nothing to do with this company. This is a good time to actually buy more. And then I press play and the plan continues. And that's what I do.
That's great. That's great. I love your coaching. It is, it's great coaching because as a coach, I can recognize the dialogue. All right, I'm going to continue in here for a minute though. You said that you do your research before you invest in a company. And I saw that somewhere where people can go and they can read the balance sheet of the company and they can, find out all that kind of stuff. So let's give our listening audience that information. How do you go about investing in a company? Like for me, for instance, if I were to go into investing right now, I would be going in totally blind. I'll be looking at, hey, you know what? Apple or Google are good. And if I can afford it, then that's where I'm going to go. But if someone sends me a company that I've never heard of, how would I decide if it's a good investment or not?
So there's a couple of things you can do. And I'll do my best to answer it in 90 seconds or so. We
Right.
actually teach like a whole course on this, and it takes about 3 to 6 months for someone to actually learn the different stages of vetting, a little
Well,
bit
that's
like going
great.
back to school. But
Well,
I'm
that's
going to tell
awesome.
you what the
You teach
stages
that
are.
in your Happy Investimeter. Okay, right. But yes, maybe you can just do a bullet thing.
Yeah, I will.
Right.
I'll totally do a bullet. And I'm going to give anyone listening a warning. I don't want your head to explode. So if I give you all of these steps and it sounds like interesting, then go and research more. If I give you the steps and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to do that. Well, you still learned something new. So the first thing you want to do, especially when someone tells you about something that you have no idea what to invest in, my rationale for my students is actually to not invest in things that they know nothing about. And the reason why is because you have to know something about it if you're going to put your money to work. So if you don't understand how a company makes money, you can't expect it to make you money, period. And this is going to be easier if you're already around it. So an example would be if you're in healthcare and someone sends you a company like McKesson, which is a supplier company within the healthcare field, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I totally know McKesson. Like they're in here all day, every day. This is where I get all of my supplies. Now, when you think about how does McKesson make money, it's really natural for you to think about that or research it. You'll get it. Versus someone who's in software hearing about McKesson, they're going to like, wait, what? What does that do? They help hospitals. Okay, I kind of get that, but it's going to be a little bit harder. So you want to understand how this company makes money. The closer in proximity it is to your day-to-day life or your career or something that the people around you do, the better. The further it gets from that, a little bit more work has to go into it. So you're going to first find out, how does this company make money? Then you want to find out, once they make money or how they make money, you want to think about, are they good at making the money? So it's one thing to charge people something. And I can tell you this as an entrepreneur, but it's totally different in terms of how well you are at people purchasing and buying this thing. And I see it all the time with companies. Someone might see a share for a company and it's like $10 a share. And they're like, this is amazing. And they'll go to the company and they'll see it's something like Groupon. And they're thinking, Groupon's amazing. I love Groupon. But when you look at the financials of Groupon, they suck at managing their money. They might make it, but they don't keep it. And we all know someone in our lives like that, right? They're the person
Yeah.
who makes 100K plus a year, but they're
Yeah.
always broke.
Because they
Companies
spend it
are like
all.
that too.
Right.
Companies are the same way. So you want to start doing some diligence around it. And this is why I say, if you have an actual method or if you know what to look for, then it gets better. So you look at how good they are at handling the money they make. You think about, are they going to be here in the long term? And then you also think about how it matches with your goals personally. There are certain companies that I'm never going to invest in, or industries that I just don't agree with. An example would be investing in jails and prisons. I'm never going to be okay with that, because I personally think that our system needs to be reformed. And so I don't care if a company is making a crap load of money creating beds for these jails. I don't care. I'm not a part of that system, so I'm not going to invest in it. And so those are some of the things you want to start thinking about when thinking about investing.
Okay, that's awesome. So, all right, in that little blurb, I didn't hear anything but learning to read um, financial data. Do you teach people to do that? Do you have to
I
learn how
do.
to read balance
I do.
sheets?
Yeah, we just did this on Tuesday night. So And so remember when I mentioned we want to see how much money they make and we want to see how they are at managing the money they make? Well, you can find that in an expense report. And so typically speaking, you can go to Yahoo Finance or Google Finance, scroll a little bit down, and you're going to see cash flow statements, balance statements. It's also listed in the company's investor report. So you can Google the company name and Google investor relations, and a whole report will come down with their earnings, how much they spent, how much they made, how did they get the money that they made, what was the cost of acquiring the clients and services and revenue. And you can find all of that in an investor report. And so this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but really and truly, if you can't understand the gist of how a company makes money and how they are at doing it, then maybe you shouldn't invest in it at all.
Right. Got it. Got it. Got it. All right. Now that was a great question and great answers. All right. Now, one of the things that you say, and what we want to focus on today, is that you say that investing is the best way for women to build their money legacy. So expand on your reasoning behind that.
Typically speaking, women, we feel more emotion wise, typically speaking, and statistically speaking, women are the ones to be the caretakers, whether that be for their parents, their children, or even just other people in their lives that they care for, especially if people were to get ill. Women, as a fact, get paid less than men. Probably for every, right now it's in the high 80s. The number's worse if you're a woman of color or a woman who's a first generation. And so all these statistics are just to tell us that our money works less for us. And because our money works less for us, we need to put it in a vehicle to outpace the amount that we're getting always. And to me, the only way to do that is through investing. So yes, we can save it, and women are pretty good at saving, but the reality is saving it still doesn't help you create the balance between that lack that we're always experiencing, which is why I think investing is really important, because even though I'm here choosing to take care of my parents or choosing to be a mother who, an example today, just went to go have lunch with my daughter at her elementary school. I know that even though I made that choice, I'm not thinking in the background that it was at the sacrifice of me not working, that it was at the sacrifice of me not being able to provide in the future. And I know that because I have investments that are working 24/7 for me.
Of course. That's what
And
investing is all
And
about.
that's what investing is. So for
Yes.
my mental health, it helps for me in understanding that I can step away and still be all of me and not have to be the provider or the hustler. It definitely helps too. And I think that's just something that women fall prey to.
Right. Yeah. And also, one of the things I want to mention is that you obviously started young. And, I have a daughter right now, she's 34. And one of the things I told her is to start young, because I remember this statistic or not really a statistic. I remember this, I don't even know what to call it, but someone said, let's put it that way, that if you were to invest $2,000 in stock when you're like 21 and don't put any more money, the value of compounding interest, you'll be a millionaire when you get to 65, just not doing anything, just by compound interest. So the fact that you started when you're young, it's so important. So that was really great. And let's not talk about, let's, just put on the fact that you were doing $100 a week. Most people, put into a 401k, and, they do about that, 5%, 8% or whatever of their money. So let's dissect that. Are you talking about 401k, or are you talking about picking a stock and investing and managing your own portfolio?
I'm talking about managing your own portfolio. So it's not necessarily just a 401k, and that's great. But the reality is, and I'm one of those folks, I look young. I'm not really that young. I'm definitely in my later 30s. And I say this because someone might be listening and saying, and so like I say, you were young. But at the same time, I came to the table with a lot of financial trauma and hardship. And so when people look at me and they're like, you're young, I think, yeah, but did you know that I had to liquidate my money at least 2 or 3 times? So even though I'm young and I started investing, I have liquidated my investments over the course of my
Let
lifetime.
me put a pin there. You're young wasn't anything that, anything derogatory. It was building you up, because you're right. A lot of people don't think about investing until they're older and looking at retirement. The fact that you're in your late 30s, to me, that's young. I have a daughter that's 34. That's young to me. But if you're teaching this stuff now, you've got to be in the market at least 10 years. So that's basically what I'm saying. You started young. Don't diminish that.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. The reason
Yeah.
why I probably might have come off as saying like, oh, it's not the same, it's not all roses. Well, it's roses. It's like beautiful but thorns. It's because a lot of people, I teach this, and I come across thousands of people, and they say, I'm too old to do this. And they're like, it's different for you. It only worked out for you. So I find that a lot of people hear other people saying, if you started at this age, what their brain processes it as is, I'm late. What's the point? And so I highlight the fact that I've had to liquidate to take care of my father, who was literally dying, to purchase a home, to take an 8-month maternity leave. I say this because every time I do that, I'm starting over again, just like someone who's starting today. But the
Right.
reality is, if you plan on being here in like 10, 15, or 20 years, you're going to have to figure this out. Right. And
Yeah.
so, but I do appreciate you commending me for being young, because I think, like, thank God I did it, because I don't know where I'd be, very frankly, without it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you would be the person that's just living paycheck to paycheck because you work. Now you've got investments to, have a little foundation and a little background. Okay, so that's awesome. All right. Now, I'm not sure if we covered this already, but the question that I have here is, what do you think is the most critical skill to master? Now, going back from our conversation, I would say that understanding, the company is a critical skill, but can you think of any more?
I think a critical skill, just period, is learning to how to make your money make money without you. It's almost as if it's
Mhm.
going to be like your reputation. When you step out of the room, what do people say? When you step out of the room, what does your money do? It's just that much, right? So when you step out of the room, out of the equation of making money, going to work, what's happening? And for a lot of people, they have no idea. It's almost as if you leave your kids in the house alone and they just run amok. For a lot of us, that's really what would happen. And so I think such a crucial skill set is learning how to make your money grow. Now, a lot of people say that they might not have the time to do that, or they might not have the resources. But when I think about it, it's one of the most critical things that you have to learn. It's the same thing. You have to learn to drive at some point. You have to learn to balance a checkbook. You have to learn to cook yourself food, even though you can go out. It doesn't matter. You have to learn this if you don't want to always be stressed out about it. And so for me, that's the number one skill set. Of course, know yourself, but know your money too. Because from the time you either are born in this country or come into this country, you are handed a number, and it is to track your money. It is there with you longer than any relationship you will ever have. And so you need to get to know it. And you can either do it, willingly, or you can do it, you know, not willingly and get taxed and be paycheck to paycheck. Either way, your numbers want to get to you.
I like that. I like that. Yes. Passive income. You didn't label it, but yes, passive income, getting money while you sleep. So that's amazing. All right. So how do we build our investors' mindset and start investing with as little as $100? Before we press record, I told you that at one point in time, I was investing, very small amounts a week, on an app called Stash. And I think what Stash was trying to say is that, yeah, you get it coming out of your account. It's a little bit of money. You're not even going to notice it. But I canceled that as well because, again, I knew that I didn't know anything about the companies I was picking, and I recognized I didn't have the time to learn. Yeah, you just told me I need to learn, but I didn't have the time to learn because I do a lot of things. I'm an entrepreneur. I work 7 days a week, so I didn't have the time to learn it. So I canceled it as well. So how would you tell someone to get started with a little money? Um, so yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. You're not the only one with, say, Stockpile, Stash. There are a lot of apps out there. And I actually interact with these apps. I've got like 20 different investing accounts because I teach it. So I have to be the guinea pig.
Right.
And I canceled a lot of those accounts because for all the times they were taking money out of my account, when I went in to log in, I was like, I don't understand why this isn't making more money. It just felt so defeating.
I didn't understand it. That's basically what I just said. And I know that I could learn it, but I just didn't have the time. But
Mhm.
right, yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're not alone. And a lot of people experience this. And the thing is, I know that the reason why I stopped it was because I knew that I could invest myself and make more money with the understanding that I had versus what they were doing. And
Yeah.
so our stopping was a little different, but we still did, both of us stopped it. So when you think about investing for something, say as little as $100 um, a month or just at a time, there are a couple of ways you can approach it. So on one hand, you can invest in a fund. And a fund is, I'd like to call it a bag of jelly beans. And so you're investing in a lot, and each jelly bean is a different company. And so you're investing in the whole bag. And a lot of people don't realize this. They think they've got their 401k and that's it, their retirement. They don't realize that they could be investing now outside of that retirement. Because like we said, most people aren't going to have enough in their retirement. And that's really why I started investing before, because I realized there's a lot of moments in my life before retirement that I want to be fabulous. And so I said, okay, well, we're going to do this now. And what I realized initially is that there are funds and you can invest in the entire stock market. So sometimes people say, if you had invested in the whole market, you would have made X, Y, and Z. And the average person doesn't understand what that means. They don't understand that that means you buy a fund, and this fund is like you're buying a whole bag of jelly beans. You're buying every single stock in the stock market. And so there's a fund that's called VTI, and it's called Vanguard's Total Market Index Fund, and you are buying the entire global stock market. And you can just do that, and your money will grow incrementally as the stock market does. No fancy trying to pick the best stock, none of that. You're just going to own it all. And typically speaking, over time, of course, this is not advice, it's just education, but you can check out the stats on it. Over time, that has brought back about 10 to 15% over time. So that's way better than just a bank account. Now, once you put that aside, then you want to start focusing on, okay, I want something that's going to make a little more than 10 to 15%, right? For a lot of us, we have an appetite for more. I definitely do. And I thought about, well, my goals are going to take 25 years at this 10 to 20%, or I can find a really good company giving me 30% or 50%, and I could get it in 5 years, or I can get it in a year. So that's what I went to. And that's why I learned about analysis and individual stock picking. Individual stock picking does have a higher risk, but it's not ridiculously risky as, say, crypto or any of those other asset classes. And
I
I
wasn't
also
going
like
to touch crypto. You brought it up.
and I have crypto, but I do own a bit of crypto, but it's not before I have my actual stocks, because stocks are government, it's regulated. If anything happens, such as it did with the last recession, the government is going to bail these companies out. They have proven it over and over and over again. Even during the last pandemic, they bailed companies out. And so that's the insurance I need for if something were to happen to the stock market again. Okay, let's look at history. They bail them out. And so it's never bad to think about sectors. Think about financial sector. Government always bails the banks out. Government always bails healthcare companies out, right? Government they're always going to bail out certain kind of industries. So when you're starting to think about who do you want to invest in, start considering it by the industry and then the company in the industry, and start again doing that, little basic research and then jumping into it.
That's good advice. Yes. Okay. Awesome. I love that. All right. So we've alluded to your method earlier, during the show. So tell us about your happy investor method. What does it entail?
So the happy investor method is a method I created after investing for about 15 years. Initially, like I said, it was a hot mess. It was hard and scary. And I remember many times thinking, why didn't anybody teach me this in school? Why didn't my parents show me this? Why didn't the richest person I know show me this? And all this to say, I realized that it came down to personal accountability. And that's just it, right? It's for all things in life, most things in life, we can't blame everyone. But the only way to get your power and agency back is to really be responsible for yourself. And so I took a ton of classes and I learned a lot, but most of what I learned came from understanding my own mistakes. And I remember thinking, why didn't someone just explain this to me? And every time I met an investor who was stuck on something, I said, well, did you consider this? And they said, oh my gosh, I did not. And so after a while, I started teaching it. And I created the Happy Investor Method because it's a method that helps people understand investing in human terms. So I humanize investing. I make it through analogies, through making it relationship based, kind of like when I said about the jelly beans, or it's like dating. I talk about it in that way and people see results. And we lead with the emotion of happiness first, because a lot of people are really scared of investing. or anything with money for that fact. They're scared of it. It's intimidating. They don't know where to look. And so when they come into our door, literally the biggest thing you can see it is happy, right? It's like, oh, by the way, it's investor method, but you're going to be happy. This is all our hope is for you. And that's what the happy investor method is. It's a method to analyze and dissect investments in a way that doesn't make you lose your brain. And it
Okay.
shows better results. Really,
Okay.
that's the best part about it, is that the results we have, you would think that by teaching these methods and the way that we teach them, it would compromise return, but it doesn't compromise return because people actually understand it, they use it, and therefore we have better results.
Well, I like what you said, that you learn to drive, you learn to cook. You should learn about investments. And I know, listen, the millionaires and billionaires in this country, there's no doubt about it. They're all because of investment. And our community, because we come from lack, right? And we don't want, it's like going to Vegas. I don't gamble because I don't want to lose my money. I don't have enough of it. So it's the same way in investing. They're like, nodding their teeth and wondering and whatever. But if you go into it with knowledge, education is power. You go into it, and even if you go in the next day and it dips or whatever, then in the back of your mind that, hey, maybe this is just a good time for me to get a sale. I love that analogy too, clearance sale, and it's all mindset, and I love that. And yeah, anything that's fear-based, you're going to lose your money. But I knew that I teach myself everything I know, and you talk about books and courses and whatever. I know that. But right now, I'm doing a lot of things and I didn't have the time. But I recognize that investing is the way to go. I'm one of the ones that put my money in a 401k and just picked the balanced index fund because that's what they said. That's the best one. I've heard they say, follow the S&P 500 index and you can't go wrong. And that's what I did. But every time I went to pick a company, I don't know. And I know enough to know that you got to go through the balance sheet and you've got to do what you said, understanding the company. But you just, dissected it for us and told us, understanding how they make money or they keep money. I love the Groupon example. So as we wrap up, let's talk about really what I said our conversation was going to be today, and how women can prepare financially for anything from recession to divorce. Do you teach that in your Happy Investor method, or that's just another skill that we can develop?
I teach it in the method, but the way I teach it is, how do you create your own independence? And it really is around independence. It's independence from your career, independence from the relationship that you might be in. It's independence from even yourself, right? Or a past version of yourself. And that translates into many different things, right? So it could be divorce, it could be before marriage, after marriage, not married at all, so that you're not dependent on our system to
Right.
take care
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
Right. All of these things are there. And so what we teach is independence. And I teach it because the reality is I've always had a problem with control and not wanting to be controlled. and
And
and I
no
really
Janet Jackson.
seriously, like yes. And so I just never wanted to be in controlled. And I always wanted to be controlled. And I know in control. And I know that there's no way to predict the future, but I do imagine that everything that can help me not be controlled, I will have to financially pay for that. And that's really what you're investing in. When you're investing in a book or a course or anything like that, you're investing in yourself and the ability to always have control. And that is a very big, important topic. It's just something that, like, when you're a woman and you think about a divorce potentially, and it's really interesting because this is kind of, our team, we're brainstorming what are things and ways that we can help. And this is a topic that came to the forefront. And I'm happily married. And it is crazy that I talk
About
talk about
divorce, right?
this. But
Yeah.
to about divorce, right? And trust me, I was on the news and there was like a whole headline. It was like happily married woman prepares for divorce or blah blah blah. And I'm like, pause, that is not true. I am not preparing for anything. Okay. Like I am not trying to have that energy up in my relationship. Like, can we not be the cause of a potential divorce? Like I have kids. I want a family together, right?
Right,
Let's be
right.
clear. And so I'm always clear that I'm advocating for the best, happiest relationships. But I'm also clear that 50% of relationships end and women get the short end of that stick.
They
And
do.
they get the short end because they keep the property. Typically speaking, if it's a property, they'll keep it. And other times they may actually liquidate their retirement. So they're keeping the property, the thing that's really hard and really not able to be liquidated in fractions, right? If you're down on your luck and you just need to make mortgage or you just need to make a bill, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to sell a room in my property, right? And literally sell it and get the money for it. No, 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 doesn't work that way. However, if you have stocks in a portfolio, you can sell a portion of your investments in your stocks and get the money you need. And the rest of the money is still growing. And so that's why I talk about for a lot of women, we make our choices, especially financial ones, from an emotional place. And men don't, they make it from a mental place.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need to,
They're
as
very logical. Yep.
they're in logic mode, right? And so, and especially when you come to the table with someone, you need to understand that if you're negotiating with someone in logic mode, you can't come on the emotional level, because oftentimes the person with logic, their emotion is outside of the door because they're saying, I need to be logical. And the women, their logic is out the door and their emotion is at the table.
Yeah.
So
Right,
you want to
right.
come with matching the same energy. And it's not that you don't have this energy in you. I mean, we're all half men, half women. Like that's how we're created. You just need to tap into that. And you tap into that with knowledge. You tap into that with practice, with community, with other people telling you this is how it was for them. And that's the only reason, because I'm not divorced. But how do I know all this happens in divorce? Because I have clients who came to me and was just like, I wish I had you before. I really do.
Yeah. 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 Well, listen, there's nothing wrong with preparing people for a divorce. It is 55%, the statistics now. And you're right. The women usually are, they get the house in a divorce, but they have to maintain that house and they have to maintain the mortgage and child support doesn't always help if they get it, and so great, teaching them to have their money work for them passively is a great thing. And I love what you say that, yeah, you don't have to sell all your portfolio, but you can't sell a room in your house because you want to keep it. There's a way that people were doing that recently with Airbnb, but it's not doing so well these days. All right. Well, listen, this was an excellent conversation from the start. I learned a few things from you, and I will probably put some in practice. And I will definitely have my daughter, who considers herself an investor and has got the time to learn, to maybe take your course or something. So tell our audience how they can get access to your Happy Investor course. Tell us about your website. Tell us about how they can follow you in social media, because yes, you know your stuff.
Yeah. So you can go to happyinvestormethod.com, and we always have a freebie there, whether it's a calculator or a free training that breaks down investing. But happyinvestormethod.com is the easiest way to get in contact with us. And I send love notes about money through email. So I'm the person, like, I like email. You can find me on social on Happy Investor Method on Instagram. But to be truthful, I have a very, very full life between managing investments, a family, and teaching other people to manage investments. My life is really full. So really talking about my life all the time is not it. But I will tell you how to make your money grow, because that's a part of my mission. And so just go to happyinvestormethod.com. We have courses as well as tons of free resources.
Okay, and the email, when they sign up or when they click for something, you will get their email address, and that's how you email.
Yes.
Right.
Right on the page is going to be a form. Put your name and email.
Okay.
We'll send you a goodie, an investing goodie, and that's where you do it. And once you do that, all the magic happens. That's how folks know when we're releasing our programs. That's how they know my most best recent investment and why I invested in it. And that's where we also highlight case studies of people who are just like you, investing and growing their wealth. And so learning is power, and understanding that you can do this is also power.
Love it, love it, love it. I definitely congratulate you. I definitely, yeah, you're going places, girl.
Thank you. I receive that. I receive all the good and well wishes.
Yeah, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. Listen, you have given us great value, and that's really what I strive to do on this show, is to give great value. I'm definitely gonna sign up to get your emails and learn a few things. And I hope that you guys that are listening go and sign up for her course, because knowledge is power, and you don't need a lot of money. As Angie says, you can start with $100 a month, but once you start, like she said, that is the main skill, starting. And when I was doing stash, even though she says that it doesn't really, it's not the best thing for you, but they were doing it with $5. So, I mean, it's good to get started anywhere. So, and if you're young, in your 30s, 40s, 20s, listen, start now, because you can start and stop, and the magic of compound interest will it will work for you. So this is a topic that I'm glad that I shared with you. I'm glad that Angie came on and just gave us some nuggets. I learned. I hope that you learned. So thank you, Angie, for being on the show. As we wrap up, any last words?
My last words is just do something. Your future self will love you for it. And there's really no way to mess it up once you know what you're doing. There really isn't.
No, it isn't. And I'm going to tag on what you said earlier, is that even when the stock market goes down and it goes back up, right? It doesn't always stay down. So you don't have to be afraid of losing your money. If you have the courage to stick it through and bite your nails.
Yes, just press pause. Just don't walk away. Press pause.
Yeah, buckle in. Yeah, buckle in for the ride. You'll be wise. But and another thing before I go that I heard people say is that when you cash out, that's when it becomes a real loss. If you stay in the market, nothing really happens. You might be in the red, but it's not technically a red unless you cash out. So stick in there and buckle down.
It's true.
And it will come back up. You like that, right?
I do. It's so true. That's why I didn't cash out. I was like, oh no, this is not my situation. And everyone was cashing out. I was like, wait, so that means that I really lost this money. And someone said, if you don't actually cash out, it's still the money's still in the game. It's still in go. Anything can happen. And I said, I will take that risk of anything happening, because this is the bottom. It can only go up.
It's going to go up, right? And it's been a great ride, and a lot of people have come back up. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. If you're listening to this on iTunes, I would love for you to rate and give us a review that allows the show to grow and reach more audience. If you're listening to this on YouTube, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button so that you'll be notified of new shows every week. And until then, namaste.
Bye.